शोर मचाने में और सही के लिए आवाज उठाने में, दोनों में बहुत फर्क होता है। आप ये कह सकते हो कि 8 महीने में मैंने 8 लड़ाइयां रोक दी, लेकिन आपके सीजफायर प्लान्स और आपके लड़ाई रोकने के प्लान्स बहुत फ्रेजाइल हैं। दे हैवंट स्टूड द टेस्ट ऑफ द टाइम एज कंपेयर्ड द वुमन ऑफ द मोमेंट, María Corina Machado. She is one woman who has stood her ground for the last 20 years, 2 decades. And she has stood the ground for a just cause. That shows patience and that shows perseverance. एक एल्बर्ट कैम्यूस का एक बहुत सुंदर कोट है जो कि आज मुझे इस मौके पे याद आ रहा है, जो आपको मैं बताना चाहता हूं। The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become absolutely free, so that your very existence is an act of rebellion in itself. The woman of the moment, María Corina Machado, इनको नवाजा गया है नोबेल पीस प्राइज के साथ for the cause she has undertaken in the last 2 decades, in the last 20 years, to fight against the authoritative and draconian system in Venezuela. Let me tell you, Venezuela is one country very, very rich in resources in oil and gas. However, because of political instability and massive economic instability, the people of Venezuela are paying a price. There is widespread hunger and there is widespread unemployment, and also there is widespread misuse and abuse of power against which this woman had raised a voice. Now this was announced today by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, and she has received the honor for her tireless work to protect and promote human rights and democratic rights for the people of Venezuela. And she has persevered this struggle for the last 2 decades. Of course, the winner will receive a cash prize, which is approximately $1.17 million. I am sure Donald Trump इस पैसे के लिए तो नहीं इस पोस्ट के और इस अवार्ड के हकदार बन रहे थे. Donald Trump wanted to symbolically prove a point that look, I'm so great, but that's not how it works. There were 338 candidates, including Donald Trump, for this 2025 Peace Prize. But the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, hats off to them that they had the spine to stand up against the gimmicks of Donald Trump. I wouldn't have been happy to be, if you ask me, I wouldn't have been happy if Donald Trump would have got the Peace Prize because of the claims he is making that मेरे कारण ये हो गया, वो हो गया, India Pakistan की लड़ाई रुक गई. All that is a facade. All that is a facade. All right, the Gaza peace plan has been implemented as we talk, but it's too soon to say anything. It's too soon to say anything. America has been supporting Israel for all these years. And you can't take the credit for, bringing in peace in Gaza after all these years of mayhem. Now let's talk about this woman. Now, María Corina Machado, she is the founder of an organization by the name of Sumate. And this organization is devoted to democratic development. She stood up for free and fair elections for more than 2 decades. She said that it is a choice of ballots over bullets. In political office and in her service to organizations since then, Machado, she has spoken out for judicial independence, human rights, and popular representation. And she has spent so many years working tirelessly for the freedom of the Venezuelan people. 2012 में, जब final days थे of the then president Hugo Chavez, who was no less than a dictator, and he was obsessed with his socialistic policies, Venezuela का जो parliament था was dominated by the ruling Socialist Party. Machado, जो कि opposition leader थे उस वक्त और आज भी, she was one of the few opposition deputies who stood up in the National Assembly, and she dared to say what almost nobody else could ever imagine to say, that today you are destroying Venezuela. She had the courage to say that to Hugo Chavez, that today you are destroying Venezuela. The chamber erupted. The people supporting Hugo Chavez, the Chavistas, the ruling Socialist Party, the people from the benches of the ruling Socialist parties, they shouted insults, they started banging their desks, they tried to drown her out, but she kept speaking. She raised her voice above the chaos. And one pro-government lawmaker, she even, made mockery of her. And the presiding officer had even cut down her microphone. She wasn't allowed to speak, but she didn't retreat. She raised the constitution above her head and shouted that आप मेरे माइक्रोफोन को बंद कर सकते हैं, लेकिन आप लोगों की आवाज को और मेरी आवाज को नहीं दबा सकते हैं लंबे समय के लिए. और ये मोमेंट को वेनेजुएला के नेशनल टेलीविजन पे नेशन वाइड ब्रॉडकास्ट किया गया था. बहुत सारे जो ऑर्डिनरी वेनेजुएलन्स थे उनको ये देख के बहुत अच्छा लगा. पहली बार देखा कि किसी ने इस इंटेंसिटी के साथ रूलिंग पार्टी को और एक डिक्टेटर को डिफाई किया. एक अकेली महिला standing in the middle of a hostile chamber, जहां पे सारे के सारे जो लोग थे रूलिंग पार्टी के सपोर्टर्स थे, and she standing there holding the constitution against the machinery of power, raising the voice against the misuse of power, turned her into a symbol of resistance. Hugo Chavez had the habit of concentrating power, and obviously इनके जो successor थे निकोलस मादुरो, वो भी power concentration में believe करते हैं. Everything was concentrated in the hands of the executive. There were no checks and balances. Oil wealth का misuse किया जा रहा था अपने political control के लिए. Machado believed that this is violating the constitution of Venezuela and also eroding the principle of separation of powers. So she founded Sumate, a civil society organization which was meant to promote electoral transparency and voter awareness and citizen partnership. So Sumate also helped to organize the 2004 recall referendum against Chavez, one of the boldest acts of defiance in those times. She accused Hugo Chavez of silencing critics, controlling and manipulating the media, and also polarizing the judiciary. In the National Assembly, she openly challenged him and said that you are destroying the freedom and destroying Venezuela. उनके protest केवल political speeches नहीं थे. They were itself very symbolic. They were symbolic acts in spaces जहां पे dissent को हमेशा crush करने की कोशिश की जा रही थी. Machado ने criticize किया Hugo Chavez के exploitation of private businesses को. Hugo Chavez was against the idea of privatization, and Hugo Chavez, like any dictatorial socialist leader, wanted to collectivize all the private resources. This woman, Machado, she argued that look, these policies are pushing Venezuela towards authoritarian socialism. Socialism per se might not be bad, but authoritarian socialism, the kind of model which the Soviets had pursued, that is of serious concern. She raised human rights concerns. She pointed out the harassment of the political opponents happening at the hands of the ruling party, and of course the erosion of the civil liberties. Now the question arises for many of us, for many of you, that, and this is also taking rounds in international media, that why no Trump? That today the Gaza peace plan has come into picture. He was very instrumental in stopping the war between Armenia, Azerbaijan, between Iran and Israel. He claims to have resolved the fight between India, Pakistan, although we know that nothing like that has happened. He also apparently, quote unquote, is very instrumental in terms of stopping the hostility between Congo and Rwanda, and so many other initiatives which he has taken. So the question comes that why no Trump? Now, in the long history of Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee has seen many kind of campaigns, supported campaigns, targeted campaigns, many narratives, many media attentions, and every year the committee receives thousands of letters. And many people, they end up saying that what peace means to them, including the candidates, जिनको nominate किया जाता है Nobel Peace Prize के लिए. कमिटी अपना फैसला जो लेती है वो करेज के साथ, साहस के साथ और इंटेग्रिटी के साथ लेती है. और जो फैसले दिए जाते हैं that is based on the decisions and on the works of the founder of this prize, which is Alfred Nobel. In the past year, Miss Machado has been forced to live in a hiding. She has been getting serious threats on her life from the last 20 years, from the last 2 decades. Yet, despite having existential threats, she's still in the office, she's still in her country, and she's still not wanting to leave her country, and thereby she's inspiring millions of people throughout. जब अथॉरिटेटिव लोग पावर को सीज करते हैं तो बहुत जरूरी होता है, इट्स वेरी वेरी क्रूशियल टू रिकॉग्नाइज दोज पीपल जो कि आपकी लिबर्टीज को, आपकी फ्रीडम को डिफेंड करना चाहते हैं, और वो डिफेंड करने के लिए साहस चाहिए, एकाग्रता चाहिए. एंड सच पीपल हु राइज टू द ओकेजन, दे डिजर्व अपलॉज and they deserve all the praise from the community, from the people, and also this is a very symbolic gesture to give Nobel Peace Prize. इसी साल January 9th, just 10 months back, January 9, 2025, Machado emerged from hiding to participate in a protest in the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. And during that event, उनके convoy को intercept करा गया, और जो निकोलस मादुरो की जो security forces थी, they also forcibly removed her from her vehicle. And she was detained briefly for a while. And then international media में बहुत हंगामा हुआ कि देखो एक महिला को ऐसे रोका, उसकी गाड़ी को रोक दिया, उसके सपोर्टर्स को रोक दिया. एंड देन उसके बाद उनको फोर्सफुली ये कहा गया कि आप अपने आप को रिकॉर्ड करो, ये बताओ कैमरा में आके कि आप जिंदा हो एंड यू आर टोटली फाइन. कि आपने ये प्रूफ देना है दैट योर लाइफ कि हमने आपके साथ कुछ करा नहीं है, आपके साथ जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं करी है। अब उस पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस में उन्होंने आके वीडियो में बताया कि वो जिंदा हैं, लेकिन वो जब वीडियो में आए थे उनके चोट लगी हुई थी, शी वॉज इन डिस्कम्फर्ट, शी वॉज नॉट वेरी कंफर्टेबल एंड शी स्पोक आउट even then that look, I am alive, even though whatever atrocities and brutalities is being committed by the government on me, by the Venezuelan government on me, but I am still, even if I have to die, I will not waver off from my political commitment. And she even thanked those people who had rallied behind in her support. One alone woman, one lone warrior, she has transformed and she has inspired millions and millions of people around the world, not only the people in Venezuela but people around the world. So what does this demonstrate? What does this incident which happened on the 9th of January 2025, what does this demonstrate? This is demonstrating the risk she's willing to take by staying inside Venezuela rather than she could have gone anywhere on exile. वो कहीं पे भी जा सकते थे, कहीं पे भी रिफ्यूज ले सकते थे, बट नहीं, वो अभी भी इतने लाइफ थ्रेट्स के बाद अपने ही देश में है। दूसरी बात, ये रेजिलियंस दिखाता है, उनका कैरेक्टर दिखाता है दैट इवन आफ्टर फोर्स्ड कोअर्शन, even though she was being forced, she refused to be silenced. She came on the video saying that okay, I'm alive, but my commitment towards the political cause is steadfast. And thirdly, this also illustrates कि कैसे जो authoritarian regimes हैं even in 2025 ये tactics का इस्तेमाल करते हैं, narratives का इस्तेमाल करते हैं। जैसे कि अगर हम बात करें forced videos की, just a second, यहाँ पे कुछ खुल गया, जैसे हम बात करें forced video messages की या narratives को कंट्रोल करने की, लेकिन फिर भी ऑपोजिशन लीडर्स कैसे इन प्रेशर्स को, इन पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर्स को कैसे नेविगेट करते हैं, ये बात हम इनसे सीख सकते हैं। वन मोर थिंग, इन्होंने अपने पूरे 20 सालों में, 2 डेकेड्स में कहीं पे भी कोई वायलेंस इंस्टिगेट या प्रमोट नहीं किया। शी हैज ऑब्वियसली अडॉप्टेड द पाथ ऑफ नॉन वायलेंस एंड शी हैज रेज्ड हर वॉइस वेरी करेजियसली एंड फॉर द राइट कॉज। सो वंस अगेन अ बिग कांग्रेचुलेशन टू दिस वुमन। एंड बाकी दोस्तों, इस तरह के एग्जाम्पल्स और ऐसे एनेक्डोट्स को आप ऐसे में भी प्लीज इस्तेमाल करो। हम जैसे मलाला यूसुफज़ई की बात करते हैं, कैलाश सत्यार्थी की बात करते हैं, अल्फ्रेड नोबेल की बात करते हैं। सो दिस इज वन पावरफुल एग्जांपल एंड एनेक्डोट जिसका आप इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं कोई ऐसे थीम के ऊपर, जिस ऐसे का थीम रेजिलियंस की बात कर रहा है, पेशेंस की बात कर रहा है, कैरेक्टर बिल्डिंग की बात कर रहा है। एक कोटेशन तो ऑलरेडी मैंने आपके साथ डिस्कस किया इस वीडियो की शुरुआत में। एंड बाकी दोस्तों, बहुत सारे इंपॉर्टेंट एनेक्डोट्स, कोटेशंस एंड इंटरेस्टिंग एग्जाम्पल्स फ्रॉम जनरल स्टडीज, फ्रॉम ऑप्शनल, फ्रॉम करंट अफेयर्स हम अपने ऐसे के कोर्स में भी डिस्कस करते हैं। तो अगर ऐसे के कोर्स का हिस्सा बनना चाहते हैं, टोल फ्री नंबर पे कॉल करें और इस कोर्स में भी जुड़ें। आई विल सी यू वेरी सून। थैंक यू।